Now,
Well,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
In Genesis 6, isn't that sort of a classic discussion of a modus operandi of these fallen angels that is very similar probably to what you see in these abduction events?
Yes, I don't deal too much with Genesis 6, but I understand all about it and the writings that have been done on it. And a lot of the
Well,
researchers feel that that's where a lot of this came from. They actually show the abilities there in Genesis 6:4. And a lot of them feel that this is continuing here at the end, the same types of shenanigans, should I say, that they were doing then before the flood.
reproductive experiments. In other words, they were doing reproductive activities. Some of our newer listeners, the Bible gives indication, if you study the Hebrew very carefully, that that there were sexual unions going on, that there were reproductive type events. If you go to other supportive scriptures like the Book of Enoch, which was with the Dead Sea Scrolls, another ancient book that was used alongside the canon with our forefathers, it goes into greater detail about these kind of experiments. It just sounds very, very much like the reports of aliens today, of their interest in our whole reproductive cycle and our DNA, and basically doing these experiments without our approval or authorization.
Yes, and that is a lot of what Dr. David Jacobs looks at, is the whole hybridization, they call it. That's the term, where they're trying to create a hybrid race of beings. Now, in my research, and I know I will catch a lot of flack from my fellow researchers, you have to show me some of this,
Right.
or we don't have the evidence. And the one thing that I will keep it open, that it is a possibility that there is something going on in this manner, but I have yet to see the evidence. And I don't think that it actually has to happen for this to serve its purpose. Remember,
Sure.
we're dealing with deception. And in something I see, being that most of the people that have the abduction experience are women, it's a control factor involved with the abduction experience. There's a brainwashing involved. The term for the CE4 experience, Close Encounter of the Fourth Kind, by Jack Valet, is reality transformation. And that's what we're seeing that's happening to these people. The whole purpose is to change their reality and change what they actually believe. And it's done through a brainwashing, and it's done through a control method. And part of that control method is this so-called belief in a hybridization going on. Does it really need to actually happen? No. Because if you just let that woman believe that they've used her eggs to further a hybridization and make us a hybrid being, and actually show her this being, and this is all done during the abduction experience, you're going to get that woman hooked because of that maternal instinct. It's a very, very powerful weapon to be playing with.
Wow,
And I believe that is actually what's happening with this whole experience. It doesn't even need to actually be happening. It's just the illusion of it.
And they develop something akin to a Stockholm syndrome, where they develop an affinity for these very beings who have assaulted them and terrorized them.
Oh man, that's
and that's a dangerous place to be when they get to that point. And every time when they get to where they side with the beings, they walk right into the New Age belief system. And this is where the New Age metaphysical belief system goes hand in hand with the UFO phenomenon, because its purpose is to get that person to that belief system, to take their belief system away from the one true God of the Bible and take it into the New Age belief system.
And what messages are these beings giving these people? Can you summarize the common themes? Their doctrine.
They preach a New Age gospel. Mankind can attain godhood. They encourage the doing away with biblical truths. There is no sin or need for atonement. They say Jesus did not die on the cross for the atonement of sin. These are messages that come through with these experiences to these people. Jesus' resurrection was an alien intervention. Jesus was just another ascended master, half human, half alien. They teach reincarnation and karma. They teach moral relativism. Everyone has their own truth. They teach pantheism. They teach one world government. They teach one world religion.
They teach one world government, huh?
Oh yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And this is a major flag that needs to be looked at when it goes up. I mean, these are so-called alien beings coming from across the galaxies to this little planet to teach a new gospel. You know, they only are teaching a new gospel to Christianity. They don't teach that Hinduism is wrong or Buddhism is wrong or any of the other isms are wrong. And yet none of those agree with each other. They only come after the one religion of Christianity. And that has to shoot up a red flag.
Sure.
And that's something you need to look at. And as we've looked at that, then we understand what their whole purpose is to take that person's belief system away in the one true God.
Well, do they have any negative aspects? I know they make a lot of promises that if we get our act together and all get pulling in the same direction and save our environment and get our government in one thing, that good things will happen. Do they talk about any consequences if we don't do what they tell them to do?
Yeah, and it's patterns a lot along with what we have from Revelation. The same things that we see in the Christian book of Revelation that are happening in the end to happen in the end times, kind of mirror what they're saying, and that's something that you have to look at too. You know, obviously they know what the end is going to be, and if they're angelic beings and if they're fallen angels, they do know what their end is coming to, and they're trying to entice us to follow them as our saviors. You know, and that's something that the New Age realm looks at, is these beings will be coming here to save us from all of our mess that we've created.
Now, if they mention Jesus or request, were you saying they just disappear instantly, or do they try to offer some kind of resistance, or try to tell them not to say this, or basically are they just totally overwhelmed by it and disappear instantly?
Usually are overwhelmed, but I've heard cases where they've gotten very angry and gotten resistant, but the people at that point recognize that, hey, there's an issue here, and that's when they come at them even stronger, and then they will make them go away. But there is some work for the termination of this experience. We're talking about stopping the experience, but something we found in our research is that we can actually take these people through a process that will actually help them terminate the experience from their life, because something we see in the abduction realm is that this is something that follows through people's lives, you know, from the time of the first experience to the time they die. And it's something that we see reoccurring in generational cycles. But we've come across a way that we will take them through a process to help them get completely free, to where they are set free from it for their entire life.
Well, I want to cover that and focus on that in just a minute, but I have a little bit of a tangential question I want to ask you, just a little mop-up, because I want to focus on how you address this particular issue. There's a lot of talk right now about this whole concept of indigo children, and I see that it's morphed into something called starseed children, where they supposedly were birthed from star nations far away, and they're in communication with them now, and they're coming back. Have any of your things drifted into that? Because they claim that they've had challenging experiences with these beings who are coming back for them, and it's a growing movement. Have you been involved at all with that?
I've paid very close attention to that, and I will tell you that it's just more of the powerful deception that these entities are putting on us.
Okay.
And these entities are perpetuating a deception that is of a universal nature. I mean, this thing is huge. And we were warned about an end-time delusion, and we actually feel that this whole thing is probably part of it. And the whole purpose is to take our eyes away from God. Because if you believe any of what they're telling about these star children, you can't believe in the one God in the Scripture that we have that comes from Him. It doesn't go hand in hand. It goes against everything that our Scripture says is to be real.
It's amazingly mainstream when you see people like Diane Sawyer having documentaries on phenomena like this. Are you allowed to go speak at UFO conferences and conventions, and if so, how do people treat you today?
Well, after this last Roswell event, it's probably going to be a little tougher.
So you put your cards on the table, huh? In this
absolutely. And I had the opportunity to be the director of this year's Roswell UFO conference as a Christian. And, of course, that opens the door where I can, if I'm the director, I can schedule myself to speak, which I did. And I shared the talk with my partner, David Ruffino, who's helping me work on my book.
By the way, just for our listeners, how many UFO aficionados around the world come to that every year, roughly?
Well, they estimate 40,000 people roll into
40,000.
town. Oh
My
yeah, roll into
goodness.
town for that weekend.
Okay.
So, and they're all there looking for answers, and that's why we go there, and that's why we've established a presence in Roswell to try and reach people, where they're coming for truth. Let us be there to help them, give them the real truth. And I did share the truth, absolute truth, this year in Roswell. And I shared it with my partner, David Ruffino from delusionresistance.org. And we went at it like it was going to be our last talk. And they were absolutely stunned. And
Well, good for you. Good for you.
the title was Unholy Communion, the Unwanted Piece of the UFO Puzzle. And we now have the DVD ready. And you can get that off my CE4 research site.
And they can never say they weren't warned.
Exactly.
They can never stand before God and said, "No one ever warned me about this." And you laid the facts out there for them to consider Christ and their accountability to what reality they accept.
Well, I did more than that. I actually brought living evidence on stage. I had a stage full of people who were actual living evidence, not fuzzy pictures, not fuzzy videos,
Wow.
not strange marks on the ground. I brought the testimonies themselves to Roswell and had them on stage where you could touch them and talk to them, and that stunned them.
Were you booed? How would you describe their response to you?
It was very mixed. A lot of the other researchers were kind of angry. They felt they had kind of been set up. But, actually, I was set up, because if you look at the whole conference as a whole, you will see that they were setting the foundation where they were all of the speakers were questioning what this phenomenon really was. Are we really dealing with actual extraterrestrials? Could they be spirit beings? Could they be light beings? Could they be angels? I mean, the question was brought up all through the conference. All I did was use it and close the door.
Well, this leads me to the next topic. Here we have, as you say, 40,000 seekers from around the world looking for answers. Where is the church? Where are the people of God, except for you and a couple other pastors there, to provide truth and provide love and a means of deliverance to these people? Why is the church so poorly equipped to deal with this issue?
I don't have an answer for that, but we are available to help equip them for this issue. One thing that I do find that with a lot of the testimonies that I've worked with is when they realized they were having a problem and they tried to share this with their local church that they attended, they were shunned. And that's a sad thing, because these people are actually hurting and need help. And the one organization that should be there to help them and bring them through this is the church. And actually, they were part of the church. And I have to do a lot of rebuilding in these people's lives and getting them to actually become more involved again, because they get a little resistant when they've been turned away.
Mm-hmm.
They're very hurt by that. And we have tools available to help educate the church, but there's a fear factor involved, with people that are regular churchgoers that don't get involved with any of this paranormal stuff. There is a fear of opening that door and actually having to look at this. But it's something that, as time comes on, and as you see this getting bigger and bigger with all of the shows from Hollywood and TV, and people have a want to explore this, that there's going to be a major fallout from all of this, and somebody's going to have to be there to pick up the pieces. And we hope the church is there to help do this.
So just like a generation ago, the church may not have been equipped to help people who had general mental illness and was not there to counsel them, how to keep it. Now we're at a stage where people have some other kind of torment, and I don't know, would you agree that there's potentially millions of people that have had some experience like this if you went and got every one of them that could potentially need help?
Absolutely.
And
Millions. Wow.
So all these people are out there. Now I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these people had already been shunned for some other reason earlier in their life by the church, and that's what set them up to be more accepting of something like this. Have you found that common too, that they've had an earlier wounding by the church?
That's where the New Age comes from. When I was in the New Age, I always heard from New Age people. The New Age doesn't go out witnessing to people, okay? They don't do that.
Yeah,
people come to them.
Yeah, I was going to say, they take
fallout.
Yeah.
It's the fallout from people that have been hurt by Christianity, improperly taught or wrongly taught, or not taught, not taught things that they needed to be taught at all.
Mm-hmm.
And they were hurt by it, and they went looking for answers elsewhere. And believe me, there's a whole realm out there that's waiting for you to come to them.